The Cadillac's dashboard clock stopped at 3:47 p.m. when the car hit the Hudson River. Brake failure, they'd call it later. But Bumpy Johnson knew better as freezing water rushed into the passenger compartment through hidden vents. The windows wouldn't break, the doors wouldn't open, and 6 minutes of air was all that stood between him and drowning. His unconscious nephew in the back seat made the choice impossible: escape alone through the one window he could break, or stay and die trying to save a child who might already be dead. The car was sinking fast, and time was running out. November 8th, 1957. 3:30 p.m. The meeting at the Hudson River docks had been routine. Bumpy Johnson was mediating a dispute between two longshoremen unions about work assignments and territory. Nothing dangerous, nothing that required heavy security. Just Bumpy and his 8-year-old nephew Marcus Jr., who'd begged to ride along on what he called uncle business. The boy had been fascinated by the massive cargo ships, the industrial cranes, the organized chaos of America's busiest port. Bumpy had bought him a hot dog from a vendor, let him watch the longshoremen unload containers from a freighter that had arrived from Italy that morning. It should have been a peaceful afternoon, but Bumpy Johnson had made too many enemies to enjoy peaceful afternoons. And someone had been watching, planning, waiting for exactly this kind of opportunity. The Sabotage was professional. While Bumpy conducted his meeting in a dockside office, someone had crawled under his 1957 Cadillac Eldorado and made precise modifications. The brake lines were severed but sealed temporarily with fast-dissolving compound. The electrical system was rigged to lock all doors and windows when the car went into water. Hidden vents were installed to flood the interior rapidly. Most importantly, extra weight was added to the undercarriage to ensure the car would sink quickly and stay submerged. It was designed to look like an accident. Brake failure on the winding road along the Hudson River. A tragic crash through the guardrail. 2 unfortunate victims of mechanical failure and bad luck. The plan was perfect, except for one detail the killers hadn't considered. Bumpy Johnson didn't panic. 3:45 p.m. The meeting ended with handshakes and agreements. Bumpy walked to his car with Marcus Jr. skipping beside him, excited to tell his mother about the ships and cranes. The boy climbed into the back seat while Bumpy adjusted his rearview mirror and started the engine. The first sign of trouble came immediately. The brake pedal felt soft, spongy. Bumpy tested it gently while still in the parking area. No response. The car continued rolling despite pressure on the brake. A less experienced man might have panicked, might have tried to jump from the moving vehicle or steer into a building to stop the car. Bumpy Johnson did something different. He calculated. The road from the docks to Harlem was exactly 4.2 miles. Most of it ran parallel to the Hudson River, with only a low guardrail between the asphalt and the water. The road curved sharply in 3 places, where brake failure would naturally send a car through the rail and into the river. Someone wanted him to crash into the Hudson River. Someone had made sure he couldn't stop the car. And someone was probably watching to confirm the job was completed. "Uncle Bumpy," Marcus Jr. said from the back seat, "why are we going so fast?" "Just taking a different route home," Bumpy replied calmly. "Put your seatbelt on." The boy obeyed without question. He trusted his uncle completely, never imagining they were both minutes away from death. 3:46 p.m. The Cadillac reached 45 mph on the river road. With no brakes and an engine that wouldn't shut off, the speed was increasing steadily. Bumpy tried the emergency brake. Nothing. He tried turning off the ignition. The engine continued running. Every system designed to stop the car had been sabotaged. Bumpy had maybe 2 minutes before reaching the first sharp curve. He could try to take the curve at 50 mph and probably crash into the trees on the inland side of the road. That might kill them both, but at least they wouldn't drown, or he could let the car go through the guardrail into the river and try to escape from a sinking vehicle. Neither option was good, but drowning gave them more time than burning in a fiery crash. Bumpy made his choice. 3:47 p.m. The Cadillac hit the curve at 58 mph. Instead of fighting the skid, Bumpy steered into it, aiming directly at the weakest section of the guardrail. The car burst through the metal barrier like it was made of paper and launched into the air above the Hudson River. For 3 seconds they were flying. Marcus Jr. screamed in terror. Bumpy held the steering wheel and watched the water rushing up toward them. The impact was devastating. The Cadillac hit the river nose first at 60 MPH, driving deep underwater before the buoyancy brought it back toward the surface. But the car was too heavy to float. The added weight in the undercarriage pulled it steadily downward. The dashboard clock stopped at 3:47 p.m. when the electrical system shorted out in the water. The interior lights died. The radio went silent, and the electronic door locks engaged with an ominous clicking sound. Freezing November water began pouring into the passenger compartment through concealed vents that Bumpy now realized had been installed specifically for this purpose. The car was designed to flood rapidly while preventing escape. Marcus Jr. was unconscious. The impact had thrown him against the back window despite his seatbelt, and blood ran from a cut on his forehead into the rising water. Bumpy tried the doors. Locked electronically, no manual override. He tried the windows. The driver's side window was bulletproof glass that wouldn't break. The passenger side window was standard glass, cracked from the impact but still intact. One breakable window. One possible escape route. But it was on the opposite side of the car from Marcus Jr. The water was already knee-deep and rising fast through the hidden vents. In maybe 6 minutes the car would be completely flooded. The air would run out. They would both drown 40 feet underwater in the Hudson River. Bumpy had a choice to make. He could break the passenger side window and escape immediately, swim to the surface, survive, and live with the knowledge that he'd abandoned an 8-year-old boy to save himself. Or he could try to save Marcus Jr. first, knowing that the extra time required would probably kill them both. Most people would choose survival. Most people would break the window and swim for their lives. Most people would rationalize that saving themselves was better than both of them dying. Bumpy Johnson wasn't most people. Instead of breaking the window, he climbed into the back seat with Marcus Jr. The boy was breathing but unconscious. The head wound looked worse than it was. Lots of blood, but probably not life-threatening if they could get medical attention. The water was waist-deep now, ice-cold November river water that numbed Bumpy's hands and made every movement more difficult. He had maybe 4 minutes of air left. Bumpy removed his jacket and shirt, tearing the fabric into strips. He bound Marcus Jr.'s head wound tightly to stop the bleeding, then fashioned a crude harness to secure the boy to his chest. If they were going to escape, they'd escape together. If they were going to die, they'd die together. 3 minutes of air remaining. Bumpy climbed back into the front seat, pulling Marcus Jr. with him. The water was chest-deep now, and the car was settling on the river bottom. Through the windshield he could see mud and debris swirling in the dark water. He positioned himself next to the cracked passenger window and used his elbow to strike the glass. The first blow spiderwebbed the surface but didn't break through. The second blow opened a small hole. The third blow shattered the entire window. River water exploded into the car with massive pressure, completing the flooding in seconds. The last pocket of air disappeared. Bumpy was now underwater with an unconscious child strapped to his chest, 40 feet below the surface, fighting currents that wanted to pin him inside the sinking car. He pushed through the broken window frame, feeling glass cut his arms and back. Marcus Jr.'s dead weight made swimming nearly impossible. The boy's body dragged like an anchor, pulling them both deeper. Bumpy's lungs were screaming for air. His vision was starting to darken at the edges. The surface looked impossibly far away, and the currents of the Hudson River were strong enough to drown grown men, even under normal circumstances. But Bumpy Johnson had grown up swimming in the rivers of South Carolina. He understood water, understood currents, understood how to use physics instead of fighting it. Instead of swimming straight up, he angled toward the current, letting the river's flow help push them toward shallower water near the shore. Instead of thrashing frantically, he used long, efficient strokes that conserved oxygen while maintaining progress. Most importantly, he never let go of Marcus Jr. 20 feet from the surface, Bumpy's vision started to tunnel. His body was shutting down from oxygen deprivation and hypothermia. Every instinct told him to release the boy and save himself. Instead, he kicked harder. 10 feet from the surface, Marcus Jr. began coughing up water. The boy was conscious but weak, struggling against the harness that connected him to his uncle. 5 feet from the surface, Bumpy's strength gave out. His arms stopped working. His legs could barely kick. He was sinking back toward the bottom with Marcus Jr. still strapped to his chest. That's when longshoremen from the docks reached them. The crash had been visible from shore. Dock workers had seen the Cadillac burst through the guardrail and disappear into the river. Within minutes, 3 men had launched a small motorboat and were searching the impact area. They found Bumpy and Marcus Jr. floating just below the surface, both unconscious, both hypothermic, but both alive. 4:15 p.m., Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. Bumpy woke up in a hospital bed with IV lines in both arms and warming blankets covering his body. His first word was, "Marcus?" "He's fine," a nurse told him. "Concussion and some stitches, but he's going to be okay. The boy keeps asking for his Uncle Bumpy." The police wanted to talk to him about the accident. Federal agents wanted to discuss who might have sabotaged his car. Insurance investigators wanted to examine the wreckage. But first, Bumpy wanted to see Marcus Jr. The boy was in the next room, head bandaged but alert, eating ice cream and telling nurses about the flying car adventure. When he saw Bumpy, his face lit up. "Uncle Bumpy, did you see how we flew like Superman?" "I saw it," Bumpy replied, sitting on the edge of the boy's bed. "How do you feel?" "My head hurts, but the doctor said I'm brave. He said you saved my life." "You saved mine too," Bumpy said quietly. Because it was true. Making the choice to save Marcus Jr. instead of saving himself had revealed something important about Bumpy Johnson's character. He wasn't just a gangster or a crime boss. He was a man who understood that some things were more important than survival. The investigation into the car sabotage led nowhere. The longshoremen who'd worked on the docks that day had all been vetted and cleared. The mechanics who'd serviced Bumpy's car were questioned and released. The brake fluid that had been used to temporarily seal the cut lines was generic industrial grade available at any auto parts store. Whoever had planned the assassination was professional enough to leave no evidence. But word spread through New York's criminal underworld that Bumpy Johnson had survived another impossible situation. Not through violence, not through intimidation, but through courage and sacrifice. The story of the sinking Cadillac became legend, not because Bumpy had escaped death, but because he'd chosen to risk death to save an innocent child. Other crime figures began to understand something important about Bumpy Johnson. He wasn't just dangerous because he could hurt people. He was dangerous because he inspired loyalty through his willingness to protect others. Marcus Jr. recovered completely from his injuries. He grew up to become a doctor, specializing in emergency medicine. He never forgot the day his uncle chose to save him instead of saving himself. And every November 8th for the rest of his life, Marcus Jr. sent flowers to his Uncle Bumpy with the same message. "Thank you for teaching me that courage means choosing others over yourself." November 8th, 1957. A car that was designed to become a tomb became a test of character. A choice between survival and sacrifice revealed the true measure of a man. And an 8-year-old boy learned that real heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear expensive suits and make impossible choices 40 feet underwater. The Hudson River still flows past the spot where Bumpy Johnson's Cadillac went through the guardrail. The barrier was rebuilt, reinforced, designed to prevent future accidents. But the real barrier that was built that day was around Bumpy Johnson's reputation. Anyone who might consider targeting him in the future would have to remember the man who chose to risk everything to save a child. And that kind of reputation is stronger than any guardrail.